Hello there, Shortcuts. Stephen here. First list in a while. Got back from Japan late last week, and I've been compiling a list that I'm going to share with you all now that I hope you like. This will be a classic rock list, and there'll be an additional jazz, soul, and funk list as well. Mixture of some of the things I had before, but also a whole bunch of new things that I found when I was in Japan, particularly in the soul, jazz, and funk list. But let's start with this. My personal favorite Led Zeppelin record, Led Zeppelin 3. This is the 10106A pressing, which is notable because it comes with this. I haven't had one of these in a long time. This is the poster that came with that particular pressing in fantastic condition. Led Zeppelin 3 with poster and with this, the single of Immigrant Song in amazing condition. Immigrant Song on one side and Hey Hey, What Can I Do on the other. So that is a really cool Led Zeppelin 3 bundle to set us all off. Before we get into punk and prog and all sorts. All right. That's great. All right, how about this? The seminal punk album, I guess. Arguably. There's a few more that spring to mind, but this is right up there. Albeit, when I listen to it, it feels on occasion more like a metal record. There's some pretty chunky riffs in here. The punk attitude of this is all Johnny Lydon and Sid Vicious, of course. So this is the 1982 repress, complete with Obi. I also managed, whilst I was over there, and it's around somewhere, to get a copy of the first press, but it doesn't have an Obi. So two choices, but obviously an all-time classic. Let's swing more toward prog now. It is practically impossible to get Japanese presses of Marillion, but I found some whilst I was there. This is their debut album, Script for a Jester's Tear, 1983. In amazing condition, really, absolutely pristine, and probably in the top 2 or 3 Marillion records. Very florid, flowing, creative, clearly influenced by the likes of, probably Genesis and this band that I'm going to talk to next, King Crimson. Lark's Tongue in Aspic. Lark's Tongues in Aspic, to be completely accurate. This is the Japanese repress. I'm actually going to take this one out of the wrapper just to show you a couple of things. Often this record is completely discolored, but this one isn't. It's in fantastic condition. For those of you who don't know the history of this record, this is the 5th King Crimson record, but the first time that Robert Fripp completely refreshed the band, which he did on numerous occasions afterwards. And this is alluded to in there's the inner that goes around the record. But this is the insert. Always cool photos of the band. But there's a Japanese kind of, I guess, text. But in it are these little snippets of English, and I'll just read them to you. This is King Crimson's first album, but also their sixth. This is the first album of the new King Crimson. Lark's tongues are delicacy, and aspic is a kind of rough background. The idea is a kind of bittersweet. With special thanks to Bill Bruford and Simon Puxley, and this is written by Yuji Kono. So this is a little essay written about this this particular record that you can Google Translate, which I'm very used to now after being in Japan, and it's kind of fun. And here are the songs that have lyrics. There are a few songs on here that are instrumental, and what you notice about this particular record is that unlike previous records where you might have a song like I guess 20th Century Schizoid Man, which is loud and bombastic and cryptic, and then you might get some ballads that might surround that song. There's always texture in terms of the record. Here you get song, you get it within the songs. So you have, I guess, what became known as Quiet Loud, and perfected by other bands as well, of course. But King Crimson on this record kind of started that trend, and it's it's a really interesting record. A lot of people, and I'm not a prog aficionado, but this is right up there in terms of how people think about prog records. One of the things that Robert Fripp did with this particular lineup was he effectively hired two drummers. One was Bill Bruford, who became a stalwart of King Crimson all the way through for decades, an amazing drummer. But the other is a guy called Jamie Muir, who is credited on the record as percussion and all sorts. And the all sorts is interesting because you will hear weird and wacky percussion all through this, where you'll be like, what is that? How is he creating that? What is he using? And I know that's all deliberate. But very, 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 very cool record. And first time ever had it on Shortcuts. So thank you, Japan. First time for the next two as well. So whilst that prog record was very deliberate and, Robert Fripp tearing up the rules, this very proggy record from a non-proggy band had a completely different history. This is Kiss music from The Elder, and a really interesting birth to this record. So the Japanese pressing is this beautiful gatefold. This copy is in pristine condition. So this produced by Bob Ezrin, who became kind of like the metal record du jour producer after this. But this was an experiment, and at the time it was judged as a completely failed experiment. But subsequent to that, a lot of people who are kind of in the Kiss world loved this record. And music from The Elder with Robert Christie, Anthony Power, Christopher Makepeace, the American Symphonic Orchestra, and the St. Robert's Choir. That should give you an idea that this is not your typical record. And, what a follow-up to Dynasty, to go this direction. Ace Frehley left the band after this. I think he just thought this was a travesty of a record. But it has its lovers, and beautiful thing. Now this next band, this is UFO, Force It. Michael Schenker, of course, on guitar. This was their breakthrough record. became somewhat of a stalwart of a 80s heavy rock. As is always the way with UFO, somewhat of a racy cover, not quite as racy as some of the other kind of German bands at the time, but if you like your chunky riffs and guitar licks and that's your world, UFO Force It Japanese, I think it's the first press as well. All right, I've got a couple of classics, three classics in a row, and then some Shortcuts royalty. This is super hard to find in high quality vinyl, but what a record. Lou Reed's Transformer, produced by David Bowie, of course, and basically almost like a greatest hits. Vicious, Andy's Chest, Perfect Day, Walking on the Wild Side, Satellite of Love, New York Telephone Conversation, Good Night Ladies, to name but a few. Lovely Japanese pressing. Yeah, everyone knows this record. It's great. And this one as well. So this is super hard to find again at reasonable price. The good thing about a lot of these that I've got, the pricing is going to be really, really sharp because I was able to get them at such good markups. This is the Japanese first press of Prince's Purple Rain, complete with obi, in fantastic condition. And this is the Japanese first press of The Clash. The Clash. Talking about punk records earlier, you know, when I was thinking about Never Mind the Bollocks, this is the record that comes to mind as the competitor for great punk records. The Clash, lovely sounding record. Now, what's notable about this is it came with a free single, and this copy includes it. Now, the free single is in beautiful condition. One side, Gates of the West, and the other, Groovy Times. So, oh man, looks pretty much unplayed to me. So there you have it. The Clash. Again, a record that, you know, most of you will know. You either love it or you don't. I'm in the love it camp. I think this and London's Burning are pretty extraordinary pieces of work. A true band at the height of their powers, striving for greatness and achieving it, which is pretty special. Now, I mentioned I've got some Shortcuts royalties. For those of you who aren't aware of what Shortcuts royalty is, these are records that over the period of the last 5 years of this club, we have nailed down as having, you know, real quality. This is the Japanese first press of Kate Bush's debut album, The Kick Inside, one of the most beautiful sleeves ever, and an amazing album that sounds incredible. 5 of you now have this, which is Vinyl Me Please's repress of Tango in the Night, mastered from the original master tapes by Ryan Smith of Sterling Sound on 180 gram forest green Galaxy vinyl with a foil stamped tip-on jacket, and it sounds extraordinary. And then finally, I cannot tell you how good this record sounds. Just look at the reviews. This is the EAS 80560 pressing of Abbey Road. Absolutely extraordinary sounding record. So there you have it. That's the rock list with some punk, of course, and a little bit of prog for this week. Keep an eye out for the jazz and soul list, which will be with you all imminently. Thank you for watching, as always. If you'd like to be on the mailing list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Thank you.